Hey everyone, welcome back to another Haolonggoods review. Today we're taking a look at their first theropod since they stopped their GR Toys Haolonggoods collaboration. I don't know, the history between those two companies always confuses me, but since they came back and been releasing a lot of figures lately, this is their first theropod, their Allosaurus. And this is the first review I'm doing from my new studio. Finally moved. Got a nice collection room that I'm setting up, which there will be a video soon on that. And yeah, so this is the first figure that graced the new table. No more what poster board, whatever I was using before for a background. Everything's all nice and clean and neat now. Now I end up getting this Allosaurus figure off of AliExpress. I got it for like $18. I obviously opted for the box option. I lost the phone packaging during the move. No big deal, so we don't have to go over all that nonsense, but I'll leave a link down below to the AliExpress store I purchased this figure from. So enough about that. Let's throw this up on the turntable and jump into this review. And here is the Allosaurus up on the turntable. Now, normally when I buy Haolonggoods figures, I've been usually getting both versions. This Allosaurus is a good figure, but just a couple of things about it I did not like about it, and I just opted to get the one to get a feel for this figure. And, you know, after looking it over, I'm definitely going to be sticking with this version. This one is the blue one. There's also a brown version available. The blue, I just like vivid colors on my dinosaurs. That's why I went for this blue and red version. Now, there's a couple issues, like I said. Why? It's not going to be my definitive Allosaurus, but it is a very good attempt for Haolonggoods' first theropod. They actually have a very nice looking Dilophosaurus in the mix. They just announced Decentrus is a type of stegosaur. We haven't seen that species since a few years ago when Batat came back to life for like a little bit, and then they decided never ever to make Batat dinosaur figures ever again. I guess they just don't like money. We'll never ever see those Dan LaRusso prototypes, I guess. But yeah, it's a decent figure. I do like the nice vivid color scheme on it. It has a nice active pose. It balances really well. But just some stuff with the head and the hands just kind of bother me about this figure. So we'll go over that when we just look at some of the finer details on this little Allo. And now for some measurements. This figure is just a hair under 9 inches long from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail, or about 22 centimeters and 3 inches tall to the top of the head, or 7.6 centimeters. So Allosaurus is estimated around 28 feet long, or 8.5 meters. I'll put this figure in the 137 scale range. Haolonggoods kind of been all over the place with their scale, but they list all this stuff as 135. So this is pretty close to a 135 scale Allosaurus, even though I feel like it's just small for some reason. Now let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with the head. Pretty decent head sculpt. Now, one of the issues I had was it's a little bit shrink wrap. You can clearly see the inorbital fenestra right here. Us dinosaur accuracy freaks just do not like seeing shrink wrapping on the head. It's really not, terrible, but it's still there. Judging from the head shape of this figure, I'm guessing this is Allosaurus jamansoni. It just looks a little too deep and shallow to be jamansoni, but the snout definitely looks like jamansoni. So I guess it is that species. And then looking at the head, you can see they went for the lipless look. Haolonggoods has a very good reputation of communicating with people on the dinosaur toy forum, and they said the reason this figure didn't come with lips, it just would have been too much for the mold. The jaws are very small, and it would have been very hard to pull off the lip look. So at least they gave us a reason why they went lipless, unlike PNSO. The eye is painted yellow with a black pupil. You can see all that nice blue and bright red mixing in on the head. Some nice scale detail on the lower jaw. Open up the mouth all the way. We do get some really, really nice details inside the mouth. I'm gonna definitely have to get some better studio lights. These aren't working out as good as I hope. You can see the nasal passages are sculpted back there. Nice, goes all the way back. Throat looks like it goes on forever and ever. You can see a nicely detailed tongue. All the teeth are nicely painted. You can see the head crest nicely done. All that nice orange and red. Some nice scale detail going down the neck. You can see a little row of spikes that disappears and then starts up again on the back and goes all the way down to pretty much the tip of the tail. And then going down to the neck, nice powerful looking neck, nice folds and wrinkles, more of that nice blue and red and some white striping mixed in there for good measure. I'm gonna keep my hands back. My studio light's not liking these. Gonna have to get something a little bit different. Going down to the arms are nicely sculpted and muscular. Now the other issue I have with this figure is there is no giant thumb claw on here. P&SO did the same thing with theirs, and the thumb claw of Allosaurus is one of its trademarks, and I just don't know why it was omitted from this figure. Haolonggoods messed up with the Tyrannosaurus, missing the thumb spike, and we don't have the enlarged thumb claw on this figure, which is kind of disappointing. That's one of the reasons I'm being held back from this figure. Look at it from the top, nice thick chest, very wide hip region, and nice very thick tail base. Going down to the hind legs, nicely detailed. You can see the toe claws are painted in off-white color. Lots of nice fine details all over the legs. Flipping it on the underside, you can see a nice cream coat for the belly. Look at some pecs right there. He did not skip arm day. And over here we have a very nicely defined cloaca slit. And we all know I like my cloaca slits on my figures. And then going all the way down, more of that nice fine scale detail with all these spikes and osteoderms on the tail, all the way down to the tip. So yeah, a very nicely sculpted figure. It's just a shame that there's a couple issues with it, with the shrink wrapping of the head, the lack of the thumb spike, and like I said, I just feel like it's too small for an Allosaurus figure to be around that 135 scale. Moving on with comparisons, here it is with Collecta's 140 scale human. And let's do some other Allosaurus figures. First up, here it is with Collecta's with its big oversized feet, and I think this thing got warped a little bit in the box. We'll just leave it like that. And next up, here it is with Papo's Allosaurus, which I still think is an all-time classic figure. And next up, here it is with P&SO's take on Allosaurus. Let's move Haolonggoods over a little bit. I really do like P&SO's, the same thing. Look at the hands, you just don't see that very large thumb spike on it. And gotta go grab my Safari one. Left it now. See, all my stuff's in a separate room now, in a display room, so I forget to grab figures for these reviews. But after I do this one, I will go grab the Safari Allosaurus. And next up, here it is with Rebor's Saurophaganax. And let's, people get on Haolonggoods for their scale kind of being all over the place, kind of, in that high 120s, close to 140 and everywhere in between. Just remember, Rebor marketed this as a 135 scale Saurophaganax. And here is the Safari Limited Allosaurus, which right now on my display shelf is my definitive Allosaurus figure. The Safari one came out a few years ago, and it's still a really great Allosaurus figure. I wish Haolonggoods did a little bit better job with theirs, because I like a more higher end, paint job on here. Safari figures are great, but the paint schemes are kind of a little bit crude. I just wanted something a little bit more refined on my shelf, but I still have no problem keeping the Safari one as my definitive Allo on my shelf. And let's do some Morrison Formation figures. Here it is with P&SO's Stegosaurus, and let's do another P&SO figure. Here it is with their Torvosaurus, and what else? I got everything sitting on my lap. And here it is with Safari Limited Camarasaurus. And next up, here it is with Rebor's Diplodocus, and you can see how massive Rebor's take on Diplodocus is. Absolutely love this figure. Definitely a contender for Figure of the Year, just for the fun factor of it. And next up, here it is with Haolonggoods Spectacular Apatosaurus. This Allo would stand absolutely no chance next to an animal this size, and that's why the Apato is roughly around that 135 scale. And this is comes in at around 137. It still just looks a tad too small for me. Maybe it's just my eyes. Maybe I just kind of expect Allosaurus to be a little bit bigger next to these big sauropods. But I think they will. If you're collecting Haolonggoods figures, I think these two will make a great pair on your shelf. So final thoughts on Haolonggoods Allosaurus. I think it's a fine figure. Just like I said, a couple things that hold it from being really great. The shrink wrapping on the head and the lack of the thumb spike. And the lack of lips, but at least they gave us the explanation for that. All around, I think it's a decent Allosaurus figure. It's not too expensive. It's only going to cost you around $18. All around, it's beautifully sculpted. It's a nicely painted figure. I went with the more vivid one. There is a more natural brown option out there for those that like more natural looking Dinosaur figures, but yeah, it's definitely not going to be a lot of people's definitive Allosaurus on their shelf. Haolonggoods seems right now to be excelling at making herbivores, and we'll see if they can fine tune a little bit and get a little bit better at making theropods and carnivores. And like I said at the beginning of the review, I ended up getting mine off AliExpress. The link is down below in the description. So that will do it for the review. Now that I'm all set up and moved in, expect more reviews more frequently on the channel. I know the last couple months I've been, really spotty, releasing reviews, just had a lot going on. But now that I'm settled in, I can get back to reviewing regularly. So stay tuned for all the new reviews coming up on the channel, because some of the new PNSO figures coming in. My Albertosaurus is MIA, but the Gorgosaurus is on the way, and then the new Beast of the Mesozoic Wave 2 Tyrannosaurs, those should be hitting in the next week or two, so stay tuned for all that. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated. I'll see you guys for the next one.